Welcome back to Crypto Front. This is the front line where we are fighting together side by side for financial freedom. Let's go ahead and take a look at the ICP Internet Computer Price. At the beginning of the year, I was making this post here saying that my outlook for this year basically with ICP was that we were following this channel towards the downside, but I was saying that there is a good chance that ICP can rally as high as like 90. In the post you can see I highlighted something like 100% back to the top of the resistance of this whole channel, which would be right around $6. So I want to revisit and try to see how we have actually progressed with that. And as you can see from the bottom of the range right around the 3rd of January this year, we rallied up as high as like 55%. But what happened there is that we got caught with a resistance, like a mid-range resistance, which I did not highlight in that post, but later on in the following posts, I was mentioning this mid-range resistance. That's where we saw ICP, stopping a little bit. But the question now becomes, are we ever going to be reaching that top of the range around $6 and probably even go higher than that? So let me just show you what I've seen in the last few days here. Of course, I haven't been making ICP videos as much as I did in the past because I think that, quality is probably better than quantity. So once again, if we revisit this ICP price on a shorter time frame, probably like the 4-hourly time frame, I think we can see very much clearly that we had a resistance which was dating as far back to the levels where we were before we had the crash on the 10th of October 2025, and there was a resistance once again very much in line with this mid-range resistance that I just talked about. Now if we zoom in, but if we actually zoom in much more closer, we realize that ICP has formed this rounded bottom kind of a thing, and usually with this pattern is that you have some kind of a retrace, meaning that the price pumps up a little bit towards the upside, and a decision has to be made later on when you get high up here to say, okay, is this gonna be breaking even further, or this is enough and we're already going to see the price crashing from here. So this is the most usual thing that happens in markets. Of course, we really cannot tell if you're going to be hitting a higher that is higher than the $9.70 that we saw back right around November. But the thing is that a retrace is something that is very, very much common, and considering where we are with ICP here, we have already seen that if we take our Fibonacci retracement tool from the very top until the bottom, we have exceeded the first one. Okay, we had some kind of a pullback, but we have not yet started hitting the bigger retracement levels. I mean, the most common ones are like the 0.618 Fibonacci retracement level, which would be around like $7.12. We also have got a common one, the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement level, around $6.30. That's also something to consider in my humble opinion, but it's going to be very much difficult to try and figure out or pinpoint which Fibonacci retracement level is going to give us some kind of a reaction. But any of this, to be honest with you, would work. What I would do personally is to go back to the channel that we have and see what is the maximum price that we have with that chart. And we can see, depending on when we're able to reach that, we can see $6. We can even slightly get out of that range and see something like $7 here for ICP. So in my humble opinion, just locally looking at that ICP price, there is a chance that this whole thing can go ahead and try to test the resistance one more time around like the $4.70 mark. If it's able to do that, then we are looking at maybe $6.20 up to $7 as the next big price targets. But I think that we could even look at it in a different lens altogether and say, well, where are the common areas of value here for ICP? We can see that before we crashed, we were looking at right around this level here. You can tell that there is a lot of traffic, as you can see. Resistance here, resistance, once again the same thing, and you can also see more resistance than as you continue. So this is an area in which I think there is value for the price, and you can see that's also right around like that $6.30 mark, very much in line with that 0.5 Fibonacci retracement level that we quoted a little bit earlier on. Sometimes you can also see the other top of the resistance, which would be right around $7. So at this point, I can't really argue for either of the two, $7 or $6.30. I think it's gonna be a range somewhere around that level is where I would expect the ICP to touch back a little bit before it decides what it's gonna do. Right? Are we gonna be returning to bullish vibes once again, or we're gonna be continuing even further down with the bear market, maybe towards something like $1.50 or maybe even $1 at the bottom of the bear market? Because I'm keeping in mind that we have not yet reached the bottom of this bear cycle. So yeah, probably there's still more to come, but anyway, that's actually is a story for another day. What we are looking forward to at this point is to try and see if ICP can go ahead and challenge the resistance one more time at $4.60, so $4.70, then expand just a little bit, just as we have seen with more and more structures before with a rounded bottom like this. Usually they have to retrace and find some kind of decision in here to say, okay, we will be pushing higher, or we're going to be going towards the downside. So we have to check it out in the few next days or maybe weeks, who knows at this point. But I would say yes, it's much more likely, in my humble opinion, that ICP goes on to push a little bit further here before we eventually choose the bigger direction for the bigger trend. So I want to thank you so much for watching the video. If you could, please delicately tap the like button, share the video with your friends and family, and then I'll see you on the next one. Take good care of yourselves. Bye bye.